You're not supposed to remember this place. Yet the moment your shoes touch the cracked pavement, something inside you twitches like a thread pulled tight, snapping awake after years of slack. The air tastes of old rain and dust, and the village, it looks as if time simply shrugged and walked away. Wind pushes through the empty street, lifting yellowed 1970s posters that cling to the walls as if afraid to let go. Faces you should know stare back from the faded paper, but your mind, your stubborn, thinning mind, gives you nothing. Nothing except the dog. He stands beside you now, ribs showing through silvered fur, tail still, and eyes locked on a mailbox ahead. You don't remember bringing him here. You barely remember where you last slept, but he keeps circling back to you, nudging your leg whenever you drift too close to forgetting. He trots forward, cautious, nails tapping against broken tiles. You follow because something in you recognizes the weight in his steps, as if he's walked this road before. A metal creak cuts through the silence. The dog paws at an old green mailbox mounted crookedly on a fence. It sags like it's exhausted from staying upright all these years. Your hand rises, slow, stiff, as though dragging through water, and you open the rusted lid. A diary sits inside. 40 years old, if a day, its leather swollen from humidity. The pages curl at the edges like they want to speak, but forgot how. The dog whines, low, urgent, and you realize he's not looking at the diary. He's staring at the cellar door across the street. A padlock holds it shut, corroded into a lump of orange metal. There's something about that door, something pressing against the back of your mind like a memory trying to surface. You try to open the diary. The first page sticks, then peels apart with a soft tear. Ink blurs, but a name, half familiar, sits at the top. Your vision wavers, a flicker, a flash, a pair of hands, your hands, younger, steadier, tucking the same diary under your arm as children laugh somewhere behind you. The memory dissolves. The wind lifts again, whipping through the posters. One tears free and skitters across the ground like it's fleeing. The dog backs away, fur bristling, a soft growl vibrating in his chest. His eyes never leave the cellar door. And something in your bones, your fragile, betraying bones, tightens with recognition you cannot fully reach. You step toward the door. The dog barks sharply, not to stop you, to warn you. Your heartbeat stutters, the kind of uneven, uncertain rhythm that comes when your mind tries to drag a lost memory back into the light. You grip the diary. You touch the cold metal of the padlock. Something shifts under your palm like the faintest echo of movement beneath the door. And for the first time since you arrived, you're certain of one thing. You're not alone down there. You keep your hand on the lock longer than you should. Cold presses through the metal, numbing your fingertips. For a moment, your mind plays a cruel trick. You expect to feel another hand over yours, smaller, warmer, certain. No one is there. Only the dog, pacing in a tight line beside the cellar door, claws scraping small crescents into the concrete. His tail stays low, swinging like a warning pendulum. You let go. Not because you're afraid of what's below, you tell yourself, but because there is something in your other hand, something that has weight beyond leather and paper. The diary. You look down at it. It doesn't look special, it doesn't glow, doesn't hum, doesn't do anything to announce its importance. But the moment you shift it under your arm, a fragment of sensation pushes through the fog in your head. Cigarette smoke, laughter spilling from open windows, the smell of frying onions, a song on some distant radio, a village alive. You blink and it's gone. The present snaps back into place like a door slamming. The village is dead silent now. You clear your throat, more out of habit than necessity, and turn away from the cellar door. The dog huffs, the sound sharp, disapproving. "I'll come back," you murmur. The words feel strange in your mouth, like you're repeating a promise you've made before. You shuffle toward the nearest house, the dog reluctantly falling into step. He keeps glancing over his shoulder at the door as if worried it might move. The house nearest the mailbox was once painted blue. Sun and time have chewed it down to a washed-out ghost of color. The front door stands half open, crooked on its hinges. Your heart thumps hard, unsteady, not from exertion, but from the sense that you've crossed this threshold countless times. You step inside. Dust hangs in the air, turning the slant of sunlight into solid beams. Furniture sits exactly where it should. That certainty lands in you before you even recognize the shapes. A table near the window. Two mismatched chairs, a sideboard with a radio on top. Your feet know the path before your eyes do. The dog noses ahead, sniffing, sneezing, weaving between fallen photo frames. You almost call him by a name that hovers at the edge of your tongue, a sound that never fully arrives. You set the diary on the table and pull out one of the chairs. Its legs complain softly against the floorboards. Sitting down feels like sinking into a half-remembered ritual. Your body relaxes into grooves worn by an earlier version of you. The dog sits at your side, pressing against your leg, anchoring you. You open the diary again. The handwriting is neat at the beginning, confident, blue ink, evenly spaced. You trace a finger under the first line. Day 1. They said we'd only be gone a week. A shiver crawls up your spine. You flip ahead. The dates blur, decades-old numbers fighting with your ability to place them. You read in fragments. They're boarding up the well. The siren sounded again today. He promised he'd come back for us before the last bus. Your vision swims. Symbols on the page tilt, rearrange, and for a moment, they're not words at all, but the sound of hurried footsteps and someone shouting your name from down the street. You clasp the diary shut so quickly, dust jumps from the edges. The dog nudges your elbow with his head. You exhale slowly, feeling every ridge of your lungs work to pull air through the stiffness in your chest. You force the diary open again, this time flipping deeper, pages rustling like dead leaves. The handwriting changes, lines grow uneven, letters tilt, the ink darkens, pressure cutting deeper into the paper. He didn't leave, he's still here. Your gaze skims forward. The dog won't go near the cellar. Animals know before people do. Your fingers tighten around the diary so hard, the leather creaks. You look down at the dog. He looks back up at you. His ears are pricked, eyes intent, as though he understands the words on the page. Or maybe he understands the way your pulse has begun to race again, visible in the tender hollow of your throat. You turn another page. If you're reading this, it means you came back. The room tilts. The chair feels suddenly unsafe, as if you might slide right off this moment and fall backward in the years you can't fully see. The dog stands abruptly, nails tapping an anxious rhythm against the floor. You said you'd come back when you were old enough not to be scared. The bus took everyone else. We stayed. You left with him. You said it was just for a while. The words blur. You press the heel of your hand into your eyebrow, as though you can push clarity into your skull by force. Old enough not to be scared. The phrase lands like an echo, something once shouted over the sound of engines, over the crying of children. You hear another noise then, layered over the phantom sounds in your head. A ticking. You freeze, listening. Not the soft, organic tick of insects. A mechanical rhythm, precise, steady. You push away from the table. The dog's head snaps toward the doorway, ears trained on the same sound. You follow it into the narrow hall, stepping over a fallen coat rack, watching dust flutter in the slice of light from a cracked window. The ticking grows louder. At the end of the hall, a small door waits. You open it, revealing a cramped storage space, brooms, boxes, a forgotten pair of boots. On the top shelf, a square shape looms behind a curtain of cobwebs. You reach up, brushing the webs aside. A clock. Gold-rimmed, once polished, now dull with neglect. Its hands point to an impossible hour, somewhere between numbers, as if caught mid-decision. Yet it ticks, loud and steady. Your hand hovers over it. The moment your skin touches the cool surface, another fragment bursts through the darkness behind your eyes. You are young, bare knees scraped from a fall. Someone stands beside you, adjusting the same clock on a freshly painted wall. If it ever stops, they say, you'll know it's time. Time for what? The memory snaps away before it can answer. The dog whines. You carry the clock back to the table, every tick counting down a distance you can't measure. Setting it beside the diary feels right. Like putting pieces of an old puzzle back into their rightful places. The minute hand jerks forward once with a faint metallic click. You flinch. The dog steps back, hackles lifting. You open the diary again, heart thudding against your ribs. We hear it at night, the knocking under the floor. He says it's pipes. Mother says it's the wind. The dog knows better. Your mouth goes dry. You flip another page, faster now, eyes racing ahead of comprehension. He told you not to open the door. He said if you did, it would all come back. That you'd never be able to leave again. That you. The words feel personal now, directed, not to some imagined future reader, to you. Your vision dips. The edges of the room blur, the ticking from the clock grows louder, pulsing behind every sentence. If you walk away again, you won't remember us next time. Next time, you whisper. The dog bumps your leg sharply, as if to keep you anchored in the present. You look down at him. Have I been here before, you ask? Your voice sounds thin, unreliable. The dog can't answer. But he makes a sound, a soft, wounded yelp, then trots toward the doorway, glancing back to ensure you're following. You snatch up the diary with one hand, the ticking clock under your arm with the other. The metal on its back bites through the fabric of your jacket. Back outside, the light has changed. What was just pale afternoon a moment ago has shifted warmer orange edging into the sky. Time moving whether you remember it or not. The dog heads straight for the cellar. You hesitate at the top of the steps, looking out over the village. A row of houses stands in perfect, terrible stillness. Laundry hangs on one line as though someone might walk out at any moment to collect it. A bicycle leans against a pole, tires flat but frame upright. This place is wrong in a way you don't have words for. Not decayed enough, not disturbed enough. As if life simply stopped mid-breath. You lower the clock onto the concrete beside the door. Its ticking suddenly seems louder outdoors, echoing off the blank walls of neighboring houses. "I don't owe this place anything," you say. "To the village, to the dog, to yourself." But the words taste empty. They crumble as soon as they leave your lips. You owe someone here everything. The padlock stares back at you, pitted and orange, stubborn. You pull at it. Metal rattles. No give. You search the area almost without thinking, scanning for something heavy, something that can break what time has welded shut. Your gaze lands on a fallen brick near the base of a crumbling wall. You pick it up. The weight surprises you. It feels solid, realer than your own memories. You bring it down hard against the lock. The clang rings through the still air, startling birds you hadn't even realized were perched on the power lines above. They take off in a flurry of wings, scattering like ash. You hit the lock again. Again! Rust flakes off with each impact, sprinkling your shoes with tiny orange scars. Your arm aches, the old tendons protesting, but you keep going. The dog barks once, short and urgent, as if urging you on. On the fifth blow, the metal gives. The lock snaps, one side swinging down. The sound is small, yet it lands like a verdict. You pause, chest heaving. Not from physical strain alone, but from the sense that you have just crossed a line drawn decades ago. The dog steps closer, nose almost touching the seam of the door. You wrap your fingers around the handle. The wood feels damp and rough. As you pull, the hinges groan, releasing a breath of air from below that smells of earth, metal, and something you can't name. And something else. A memory rides on that smell. Darkness, a whisper, the sound of someone crying and trying not to be heard. Your younger self standing at the top of these same steps, afraid to go down, someone behind you saying, "When you're older, when you're brave." You are older now. Whether you're brave is irrelevant. The door opens wider. Stairs descend into shadow, edged in chalky light from above. The dog doesn't move at first. He stands stiff, staring down, and slowly, agonizingly slowly, places one paw on the top step. You swallow. Your tongue feels thick, your throat uncooperative, but you manage to speak. "If we go down there," you say quietly, "we might not get to forget again." The dog looks back at you. He does not retreat. The diary in your hand feels heavier. The clock ticks furiously beside the open door, its rhythm suddenly frantic, like a heartbeat trapped in glass. You take the first step. The concrete is colder here, soaking through the thin rubber of your shoes. Your other foot follows. The dog descends one step lower, then another, staying just ahead, as if carving a path through old fear. Shadows swallow the village behind you. With every step, the light from the open doorway shrinks, framing the sky into a narrowing rectangle. The air thickens, damp and close, hugging your skin. Your breath turns visible in the coolness, curling like smoke. Halfway down, something new joins the clocks ticking in your ears, a noise from below, soft, irregular, a scrape, a shuffle like something moving very carefully on a rough floor. You stop. The dog doesn't. He reaches the bottom and vanishes into the dark. Your fingers grip the railing until your knuckles flare white. You could turn around, climb back up, let the door slam shut, and let time continue erasing what's left. But the diary digs into your palm. The clock's ticking echoes down the stairwell as if it too is descending with you. If you leave now, you know, without understanding how you know, that the village will dissolve into fog in your mind again, that the dog might stop appearing at your door, that the name in the diary will drift away, nameless as all the others. You lift your foot, you step down, and down, until your soul touches the final stair, and there is no more room to retreat. "All right," you whisper into the dark, "I'm here." Something breathes in response. Not the dog, something else. And you realize, with a clarity that slices through the padded confusion of your thoughts, that whatever waits in this buried room has been waiting specifically for you. There is no going back. Not this time. Darkness wraps around you like damp cloth. The cellar's air is colder than the stairwell, colder than anything above ground. You feel it first along your wrists, where your sleeves have ridden up. Gooseflesh rises instantly. The scent hits next, soil, stale water, and something metallic that coats the back of your tongue. Then you hear it again. That breathing. Shallow, ragged, wet around the edges, like someone inhaling through a swollen throat, or like someone trying not to be heard. You tighten your grip on the diary. Its worn leather digs into your fingers, grounding you just long enough for your eyes to adjust. A faint pulse of light seeps in from the stairwell behind you, casting a narrow cone down the center of the room. The dog stands a few feet ahead, barely visible, his silhouette small but tense, ears pinned forward. He isn't growling, he's listening. You lower your own breathing to match the quiet around you. The darkness seems to hold its breath with you, waiting. You step forward. The floor is uneven, half dirt, half concrete, and your shoe sinks slightly with the first step. A muffled squelch rises from beneath your foot. You pull back instinctively, toes curling inside your shoes. The dog moves again, one cautious step at a time, nose low, tail stiff like a rod. You whisper, "What do you smell?" The question feels foolish the instant it leaves your mouth, but speaking keeps you tethered to something human. The dog's ears twitch, but he doesn't look back. You take another step. A shape emerges from the dark. At first, it looks like a pile of blankets, crumpled in the far corner. But as you draw closer slowly, breath held, the shape resolves into something more unsettling. A cot, old, rusted, its thin mattress collapsed into a hollow from years of weight. A metal cup lies on its side beside it, a faint stain dried inside the rim. Your heart dips. Someone lived down here, recently enough for something to still feel present in the air. You crouch, fingertips brushing the mattress surface. Dust leaps at your touch, swirling in faint spirals. Beneath the dust, the fabric is torn in a pattern you can't immediately place. Long, straight lines, as though cut by something careful, not frantic. Your gaze travels to the dirt floor beneath the cot. Marks, scratches, not random, but measured, repeated strokes dug into the earth. They form small vertical lines grouped in fives. Tally marks. You run your thumb over the nearest set. The dirt crumbles softly, but the marks still hold shape. Whoever carved them pressed hard enough to scrape down into the packed ground. Your throat tightens, not with repeated fear, but with a new sensation, something heavier, something like unspoken recognition tugging behind your ribs. The dog lets out a soft chuff. You rise slowly. Behind you, something shifts, a shuffle, a whisper against the dirt, too quiet to pinpoint, but unmistakably real. You spin, scanning the blackness. Your eyes snag on something near the far wall, a thin metallic glint, just a sliver. You move toward it, step by cautious step. Your shoe nudges something. A metal ring. You look down. It's a hatch, circular, recessed into the concrete, its edge ringed with bolts. A small inspection panel sits beside it, wires spilling from its cracked casing. You reach down and brush dust away from the hatch surface. Letters emerge through the grime. EBAC, ACCESS. Authorized, use only. Your stomach twists. Evacuation. The diary mentioned people leaving. Buses, sirens, someone promising to return. You look back at the cot and tally marks. Someone stayed, or someone was kept here. Before you can reach for the hatch, the dog growls. Low, warning, you freeze! His growl deepens, rumbling up from somewhere ancient inside him. He steps in front of you, placing his body between you and the far side of the room. You strain your eyes. At first there's nothing, then movement. A flicker of shape, low to the ground, crawling, dragging itself behind a support beam. Your blood turns sharp. The dog barks once, loud enough to ricochet off the concrete walls. The shape stops. You whisper, "Who's there?" Silence. A shifting shadow. Then a voice. Not a whisper, not quite human, just a breathy, cracked exhalation shaped into the edge of a word that lands in your bones with terrible familiarity. Your pulse stumbles. The dog steps back, pressing against your shin. His body trembles, not from fear alone, but confusion, recognition, something layered and old. You swallow hard, the air suddenly too dense, too cold. "Come out, you say. Let me see you." Silence again. The shadow moves. A hand emerges first, thin, pale, fingernails broken, skin gray with neglect. Then a face, or what remains of one. Sunken eyes peer out, pupils blown wide. Hair hangs in lank strands around a jaw dotted with days. No, weeks of unshaven growth. The figure clings to the beam, struggling to pull himself upright. When he speaks, his voice scrapes the air. "You came back. Your knees nearly give out." Because the voice is not a stranger's. It carries the faintest echo of someone you once knew, someone whose name sits just below the surface of your memory, like a fish circling the hook. "I don't," you swallow. "I don't know who you are." A flicker passes through the man's expression. Not anger, hurt, deep, knife-sharp hurt. "You promised," he whispers. The dog lets out a confused whine, caught between approach and retreat. You take a small step forward, hands raised, not in defense, but in something close to apology. "I don't remember," you say. "I want to, but I don't." The man's gaze drops to the diary under your arm. His eyes widen. "You found it," he breathes. "Then it's already starting." Already starting. The words scrape at the inside of your skull. What is, you ask, voice unsteady. The man's eyes dart to the top of the stairs, the shrinking rectangle of daylight, then to the dog, then back to you. You shouldn't have opened the door. A cold pulse shoots through your spine. Why? You whisper. He doesn't answer. Instead, he tilts his head listening. The cellar goes still. Then, a sound from above, a slow creak, something moving in the house you were just inside. The man's voice cracks as he whispers, "They know you're here." Your mouth goes dry. Who? His answer is barely a breath. Everyone who didn't leave. The dog presses against your leg. Something heavy shifts overhead. Footsteps. Human footsteps. And not just one set. The footsteps overhead multiply. At first, it's just one set. Slow, dragging, almost uncertain. But then another joins it. And another. Their weight presses into the ceiling above you. Dust raining down in soft trickles that cling to your eyelashes. You freeze. The dog pushes closer to your leg, body rigid, muscles bunched tight beneath his thinning fur. His ears flick back and forth, trying to track the movement, but there's too much, too many steps, too many angles. Someone, or several someones, are walking through the house you were just standing in. The man beside the beam, thin, trembling, pulls himself to standing. Every motion is slow and painful, his joints cracking through the silence like brittle twigs snapping underfoot. His eyes never leave the stairs. They heard the lock break, he rasps. They always hear it. You swallow hard. Who? Who's up there? The man's lips part, but he doesn't speak. Instead, he reaches toward the wall, bracing himself. The dog growls, not a threat, but a warning, and the man freezes mid-motion, hand hovering inches above the concrete. He lowers it carefully. I'm not one of them, he whispers. Your heartbeat thuds against your ribs, unsteady, irregular. The cellar is dark, claustrophobic, but your pulse is louder still, drumming in your ears, drowning out everything else. Another sound rises from above, furniture shifting, something heavy being dragged across the floor. Not in anger, methodically, as if creating a barricade or closing off exits. Your chest tightens. Not fear in the same way as before. This one is deeper, a pressure behind your sternum, the sensation of something old stirring in your blood. Tell me what's happening, you whisper. The man's stare breaks away from the stairs long enough to meet yours. You left before the last bus, he says quietly. But not everyone was allowed to leave. They sealed the doors, boarded the windows, locked the cellars. Some stayed because they were told help would come. He swallows. Help never came. A small tremor runs through your hand. You tighten your grip on the diary, which now feels hot in your palm like holding a coal that refuses to cool. I don't! Your breath catches stutters. I don't remember any of this. But your mind does, he whispers. Your body does. And the dog, his gaze drops to the animal. He remembers most of all. The dog looks away, as if ashamed. The ceiling creaks under weight. A soft thump shakes dust loose. Your skin prickles. A voice murmurs above you. Not words, just a faint tone, like someone humming a broken melody. Your stomach knots. The man leans close, his breath rattling. They're not dead, he whispers, but they're not living the way you think either. You step back instinctively. The man's fingers brush the air between you. They're stuck, he says, trapped in the moment it all happened, day after day, year after year, waiting for the one person who said he'd come back. The cellar doorway glows faintly from the shrinking slice of daylight above, but a shadow passes across it. Someone is standing at the top of the stairs. The dog barks, sharp and frantic, hackles lifting so high they almost double his size. You flinch back, hitting the concrete wall. The silhouette at the top doesn't move. It's frozen, just the outline of a person, head tilted slightly, like they're trying to recognize you from the dark. Then, a second silhouette appears beside the first, then a third. Their outlines waver in the dim light, bent, uneven. One of them grips something long, maybe wood, maybe a pipe. The man grabs your sleeve with fingers cold as stone. His voice cracks with urgency. You need to move, he whispers. Now! You hesitate. One heartbeat too long. A foot steps onto the first stair. The wood moans under the weight. The dog lunges forward, not to attack, but to block the path between you and the figures descending. A sound rips from his throat, a deep, primal snarl you've never heard from him before. You gasp, something flaring painfully bright behind your eyes. A memory flashes. Younger hands. Yours! Clutching the collar of a much younger version of this same dog, holding him back as men in uniforms push villagers toward a bus ferrying them away. Someone screaming, someone refusing to leave. Then the memory tears away, leaving you gasping in the dark. The first figure steps onto the second stair. The stair groans, then the second figure follows. And the third. Their movements are stiff, wrong, as if their joints haven't been used in decades. The dog moves back, herding you and the man toward the corner near the hatch. He growls so fiercely his whole body shakes. You whisper to the man, "Are they dangerous?" The man's eyes remain fixed on the descending shadows. "They're desperate," he says, and desperation doesn't know what it's doing. The first figure reaches the third stair. Their foot drags, their breath rattles. Then, a word slips from their throat, faint but unmistakable. "Why did you leave?" Your skin goes ice cold. The man grips your arm. They only remember the last thing that happened. They're stuck in the moment they were abandoned. "I didn't abandon anyone," you whisper, but the words feel fragile, uncertain. The man looks at you with devastating sadness. "You did," he says softly, "but you were a child, and someone told you it was the only way." A fourth figure appears at the top of the stairs. Then a fifth. Your breath stutters. You step back again, heel hitting the hatch. The dog presses against your leg, forcing you to remain upright. His tail is low, but his stance is unbreakable. You whisper, "What do they want from me?" The man answers without looking away from them. "They want you to finish what you started." Your pulse lurches. The first figure reaches the halfway point down the stairs, then stops, as if remembering something, as if recognizing you. You force yourself to speak. "What do I do?" The man's answer is immediate, fierce. "Whatever you do, don't run." But even as he says it, even as the dog stiffens, the figure's hand lifts toward you, reaching, accusing, needing. Another memory slams into your skull so violently your knees buckle, a bus door closing, your small hand slipping out of someone else's grip, voices calling your name, a figure pounding on the side of the bus as it pulled away. Then, cold, dark, the present shocks you back. The figures descend another stair. You hear the wood crack under the weight of too many bodies moving as one. The dog growls louder. The man whispers, "They're coming for you." And in the dim light, one of the figures opens its mouth and screams your name. Your name echoes through the cellar. Not shouted, not spoken with clarity. Screamed, ripped from a throat unused for decades, torn raw by the effort. The sound hits you like a wave of cold water. It ricochets off the concrete, fills the narrow stairwell, and burrows straight into the softest part of your mind, the part that still remembers. The dog staggers back from the sheer force of the noise, but he doesn't flee. Instead, he plants himself squarely between you and the descending figures, paws splayed, body trembling with a protective fury you've never seen in him. His growl deepens, lower, more primal, vibrating the very air. The figures pause. Their heads tilt at unnatural angles, necks creaking. Their chests rise shallowly, irregularly, like lungs that learn to breathe wrong. The man beside you clutches your sleeve. You feel every joint in his fingers like knotted branches. "Don't say anything," he whispers. "If you speak, they'll think you've come to finish it." Your breath hitches. You want to ask, "Finish what?" but the words refuse to form. Your mouth stays locked, jaw trembling. Above, a sixth shadow appears at the top of the stairs, then a seventh. The man's grip tightens. "This is what happens when people are promised rescue," he says quietly. They wait. They wait until the waiting becomes the only thing they know. One of the figures, taller than the rest, shoulders more intact, steps forward. The stair groans under its weight, wood fibers snapping. It leans forward, sniffing the air, searching. You! You drop the diary to your side, trying not to draw attention to its familiar leather cover. But the moment the diary shifts, one of the figures jerks toward the sound. The dog barks, one explosive, furious command. The figure recoils, not from fear, from recognition. Its hand lifts toward the diary. The man beside you stiffens. "They remember that," he whispers. "They always remember the last thing you held." Your pulse stutters. "The diary?" you whisper back. The man shakes his head with a slow, hollow trembling. "No," he says. "What was written in it?" A cold thread winds down your spine. The first figure reaches the bottom step. Your breath stops. The dog lunges without warning, not to attack, but to push you back. His shoulder slams into your shin. You catch yourself against the wall, gripping rough concrete. The figure stretches out a hand, fingers pale, trembling, moving as if underwater. Its nails are cracked, some missing entirely. Its mouth hangs slightly open, a loose, unnatural shape. The man steps forward, placing himself fragile, shaking between the figure and you. "No," he whispers. "Not yet." He isn't pleading, he's commanding. The figure freezes, its head tilts again, listening. For a moment, just a heartbeat, you think the danger has paused. Then, a sound splits the cellar. Not from the villagers, not from the man, from the far corner near the hatch. A metallic click, then a wheeze of air, thin, desperate, as if something sealed is trying to breathe. The hatch trembles. Your heart lurches. The villagers flinch, not in fear, but in reaction, like the hatch is calling to them, or warning them, or reminding them. The man's face strains of color. "No," he breathes. "Not now. Not with you down here," you whisper. "What's in there?" The man shakes his head violently. "Not what? Who?" The hatch gives another trembling shudder. Something hits it from underneath. Once, then again. A heavy, muffled pound that sends dust raining from the ceiling. Your vision blurs at the edges. This is too much. Too many shadows. Too many forgotten pieces clawing their way into the present. "I don't understand," you whisper. "Who's under there? Why are they? Trapped?" The man turns to you with a look so full of grief it nearly knocks you breathless. "Because you promised to come back," he says, "and they believed you." You reel backward, shaking your head. "I didn't promise anything." But the dog barks at you this time, not sharply, not in warning, in recognition, as if he remembers that promise too. A pulse slams behind your eyes, sharp enough to blind you for a second. A flash of memory breaks through. You are young, hiding behind this very house, whispering to someone your age, or maybe smaller. "Stay here, I'll come back for you, I swear." The world spins, the cellar steadies around you, the villagers shift on the stairs, restless now. Their faces twitch with half-formed emotions, anger, longing, disbelief. The way someone might look at a person who abandoned them and dared to return decades too late. The hatch shakes violently. A sharp metallic shriek echoes up from the seams. The dog whines, terrified for the first time since you arrived. The man grabs your arm and pulls you toward the far wall. "We need to get out," he says, breath ragged. "If the hatch opens, they'll swarm you." "They'll think you're here to release what you locked away." "I never locked anything. Your memory did," he snaps, louder than he intended. Every shadow on the staircase freezes. The villagers all turn their heads toward him in one slow, unified movement. "Oh God," the man whispers, stepping back. "I shouldn't have raised my voice." The nearest figure drops to all fours and scuttles down 2 steps, fast, animalistic, jerking like its limbs are learning how to move. The dog snarls, teeth bared. The man shoves you backward. "Move, now!" You stumble across the uneven floor, feeling dirt crumble under your soles. Your hand brushes the edge of the clock you left near the door earlier. It's ticking faster, much faster, as if time itself is winding too tight. The villagers descend another step. The hatch pounds again, one strike so violent the bolts rattle. You choke on the thick, cold air. "If we run, they'll chase," the man says. "Then what do we do?" The man looks at the diary in your hand. His voice trembles. "You finish what you wrote." Your stomach drops. "I didn't write this diary." But the man only stares, eyes filled with an impossible certainty. "You did," he whispers. "Before you left. Before the buses." Before the cellar was sealed. You wrote down everything you were supposed to remember. The hatch shrieks. A bolt snaps free with a metallic pop. Villagers descend another step. The dog growls, stepping in front of you, body shaking with strain but unmoving. The man steps toward the hatch, placing his shaking palms against it. "Go," he tells you. "Take the dog. Get upstairs." "I'm not leaving you. You left once," he says, voice breaking. "You don't get to do it again unless it's to fix this." Another bolt pops loose. Air wheezes through the widening seam. You grab the dog's collar and step backward toward the stairs. The villagers move as one, following you. Every head turns toward you. Every foot drags forward. Every breath pulls your name through ruined throats. The man slams both hands against the hatch. "Go!" You sprint toward the stairs with the dog at your heels. The cellar shakes. The villagers scream. The hatch bursts outward with a deafening roar. And behind you, something alive and furious rises from beneath the village. You don't remember climbing the stairs. You only remember running. The dog surging beside you, nails scraping stone, his breath sharp and urgent. You feel his shoulder slam into your leg, urging you faster, keeping you from tripping as the cellar erupts behind you in a roar of concrete, dust, and something else. Something alive. Something furious. You burst into the ruined house as the cellar door behind you explodes upward, shards of rotten wood scattering like shrapnel. The dog yelps and you yank him aside just as a piece the size of your forearm whips past your cheek and embeds itself in the wall. You spin around. The cellar mouth is now a black wound in the floor. From below you hear the villagers shrieking, some in anger, some in recognition, some in that same desperate, broken tone that had scraped your name across the darkness. And beneath their voices, another sound. Not human, not animal, a deep, dragging inhale like a furnace learning how to breathe. Your blood freezes. The man, fragile, shaking, stumbles into view, staggering up the stairs. Dust coats his hair, his shoulders, his torn shirt. He grips the railing with both hands, trying to pull himself free of whatever chaos is unfolding below. His eyes lock onto yours. "Don't!" he gasps, voice cracking. "Don't let it out!" Before he can finish, something yanks him downward, hard. His body jerks, legs lifted from the stairs. He disappears into the dark with a hoarse cry that cuts off too suddenly. No! You shout, lunging forward. The dog barks wildly, teeth flashing as he tries to follow. But a blast of cold, foul air rushes up the stairwell, knocking both of you backward. You crash into the wall. The diary slips from your grip and skids across the floorboards, pages fluttering open. The dog scrambles to your side, whining in disoriented circles before pressing himself against your hip. You both stare at the cellar. Silence. Then, thump from below, heavy, purposeful, another thump, closer. The dog growls with a fear-laced tremor you've never heard from him. His tail tucks under. His body presses so close to your leg it's almost painful. Okay, you whisper, throat dry, voice shaking. We have to move! The floorboards vibrate. Thump! Dust falls from the rafters in thick clouds. You grab the diary with trembling fingers and turn toward the nearest doorway, but something stops you mid-step. A sound from the pages. Not writing, not tearing, ticking. Your eyes widen. The clock, the one you left by the cellar earlier, is inside the diary now. You flip the cover open. The clock face stares up at you, wedged between two pages, its glass cracked but its hands spinning so fast they blur. The ticking is frantic, desperate, as if time itself is panicking. The floor trembles again. You clutch the diary to your chest. We're leaving! The dog barks once in agreement or desperation. You push into the hallway, stumbling over debris. The house shifts around you, wood groaning, windows rattling as if the entire structure wants to collapse inward. You pass through the narrow corridor where the radio once sat, now vibrating against the wall as if responding to the tremors. Halfway down the hall, the air changes. You feel it like a hand sliding across your spine. Cold, heavy, intentional. You turn. A shadow fills the cellar doorway, not a shape, not a figure, a presence, lower than the villagers, broader than the man. It moves wrong. Too fluid, too heavy, occupying the darkness rather than stepping from it. The dog bares his teeth and releases a sound you didn't know he could make, a deep, guttural snarl vibrating from the pit of his body. The shadow shifts and speaks. Your name. Not screamed, not begged, spoken, perfectly, clearly, in a voice that drains the warmth from your blood. Your knees nearly give out. It knows you in a way even you don't anymore. You stumble backward into the kitchen doorway, the dog circling to keep himself between you and the cellar. Your heart rams against your ribs, each beat uneven. Stay back, you whisper, not to the entity, but to yourself, because your legs want to collapse. The shadow steps onto the upper floor. Impossible, because it has no legs. It simply moves, pouring itself like thick smoke across the threshold. You turn and run. The dog sprints beside you, paws thudding across warped wood. He doesn't bark now, doesn't growl. He's completely silent, every instinct honed on survival. You crash through the kitchen door into the fading daylight. The moment you're outside, the air feels wrong-charged, almost metallic on your tongue. The village around you is bathed in orange dusk, the light too still, too heavy, as if the entire place is holding its breath. You race down the main street, past peeling facades, past bicycles frozen in time, past windows that reflect nothing back at you. Behind you, the cellar door shatters outward as the thing inside forces itself fully into the open. The villagers scream, a chorus dozens of throats remembering how to cry out. You force your legs to keep moving, but the dog stops. Abruptly, he skids to a halt in the middle of the street, paws scraping asphalt, body twisting to face the house you've just escaped. Come on, you shout, reaching for him. He refuses. His gaze locks onto something behind you, something stepping into the open. You turn, and your heart empties itself into your stomach. A figure stands on the porch of the house. Not the shadow. A person. A child no older than 8. Barefoot, dust-coated, hair tangled, shirt torn at the collar. Their eyes find yours with a terrible, aching familiarity. Your lungs collapse. You know that face. You know it so deeply it hurts. The child whispers, "You said you'd come back." Your vision flickers. Your breath turns shallow. The diary slips from your fingers again. That's when the shadow behind the child rises, towering, coiling, shaping itself into something with weight and rage and memory. The child steps forward. The dog barks, once like a gunshot. The shadow lunges, straight for you. And in that instant, at the lowest point of everything, you feel the truth trying to punch its way out of your fractured memory. Who the child is, why the villagers know your name, why something was sealed under the village for decades, why the dog has been guiding you, why you wrote the diary to yourself, why your mind refused to remember until now. But the truth doesn't fully surface, because the shadow hits the ground between you and the child, and the world goes black. There is no gentle return to consciousness. It rips you back. One moment, blackness, weightless, silent. The next, impact. Your body hits the ground hard enough to knock air from your lungs. You gasp, choking on dust and cold wind, your fingers clawing at gravel until you remember how breathing works. The world spins. Light fractures into orange shards across your vision. The smell of rust and wet leaves fills your nose. Somewhere close, something snarls, a low, dragging sound that vibrates through the ground beneath you. Then, a warm weight presses against your arm. You flinch, heart spasming, until you hear the soft whine. The dog! He nudges your shoulder, frantic, his breath hot and fast against your cheek. When you try to sit, he ducks his head under your ribs and helps push you upright. Your bones scream in protest, your muscles shaking with every inch you climb back into yourself. The world sharpens, the child is gone. The villagers are nowhere in sight. But the shadow is here, not far, moving, dragging itself through the dust like something newly born into a world it doesn't understand. You force your eyes to focus, and you see it, a shape that doesn't obey the rules of shape, a body that isn't a body, more like smoke trying to remember how to be solid, swelling and collapsing, stretching too far, folding in on itself. But it has weight. You hear it in every impact as it shifts. You feel it in every tremor through the ground. The dog growls beside you, a raw sound, deeper than before, born not only of fear but defiance. You reach for him instinctively, fingers curling in his scruff. His fur stands so rigid against your palm it pricks your skin. The entity's head, if that's what the bulbous curve atop its mask could be, turns toward you. It knows you. Even without a face, you feel the recognition. "Stay behind me," you whisper to the dog, though the order is as useless as telling water not to flow downhill. He steps forward anyway. The shadow advances. You stagger backward until your shoulders hit something solid. The collision jars your spine. You twist to look. A bus stop sign. Bent. Rusted. Half swallowed by creeping vines. The old bus route map clings behind glass, sun-bleached into ghostly lines. A memory needles into your skull. This is where the last bus waited. This is where someone cried your name. This is where you promised. The pain sharpens. Your knees nearly fold. The dog presses against you, steadying you. The entity stops 10 paces away. Its form ripples once like shuddering breath, and then stretches, not forward, upward, elongating into a towering column of shifting darkness. The sky behind it dims, its edges absorbing the remaining light. You can't breathe! The entity bends again, folding until it hovers just inches above the ground. Dust lifts in a thin ring around it. Then, a voice. Your name, the same voice from the cellar, perfectly clear, perfectly human, but this time, it isn't the 8-year-old child's voice, it's older, familiar in a way that makes your chest crack open. You whisper hoarse, "Who are you?" The entity quivers. Then, from within its form, something presses outward, a shape like a hand, fingers splayed, pushing against the translucent darkness that binds it. The dog barks furiously. You take one step forward, only one, and the shadow freezes, as if waiting for permission. "Do you remember me?" the voice asks from inside it. Your throat closes, the child's voice, the villager's screams, the man's warning. All of it circles the same missing truth, and then the world shifts. A sound slices into the moment. Cries echoing across the street. You whip your head around. The villagers are emerging from behind buildings, drawn by the entity like moths to something bright. Their bodies move in uneven jerks, their mouths open and close on silent pleas. Their grief is helpless and old and immense. They gather in a loose ring around you, not attacking, not grabbing, just watching, waiting. The dog stands rigid at your side, caught between fight and fear, his breath coming fast. A figure steps out from behind the group. The child. They stand barefoot in the road, dust coating their skin, hair falling in tangled strands around their face. Their eyes lock with yours, and something inside you, some barrier finally buckles. You whisper, "I know you!" Your voice breaks. The child nods once, and the shadow shifts again, contracting as though the recognition pulls it inward. The villagers murmur, a rising wave of low voices. Their hands reach out but do not touch. Their eyes glisten with something desperate, something aching. The child steps closer. The dog blocks them, but gently. Not snarling now, just uncertain. You kneel beside him and place a hand on his neck. "It's okay," you murmur. "Let them come." He trembles but stays. The child stops an arm's length away. Their voice is small, but the words hit you like impact. "You promised to come back for me." The last thread snaps. Memory slams into you, not fragmented, not confusing. Whole. A girl crying into your shirt while sirens wailed, a little boy clinging to your sleeve as soldiers ushered children away, a plan whispered between you and someone else, hide in the cellar until it's safe. The dog, young, barking, trying to follow, your younger self terrified running as the bus doors closed. The last thing you heard from inside the house, don't forget us. You faltered, froze, didn't come back, not because you didn't want to, because someone forced you onto the bus. Someone told you the cellar was sealed forever. Someone made you forget. Your voice shakes so hard you barely recognize it. I didn't leave you on purpose. The child swallows. Their chin trembles. You said you'd come back when you were old enough not to be scared. They look at you, eyes wide and shining. You're old enough now. Behind them, the shadow recoils, bending inward like your realization tightens around its form. Your pulse hammers in your neck. What are you? You ask it, voice cracked but steady. The entity's voice emerges again, this time layered, multiple tones braided together. I am what was left behind. A rush of air swirls around you, tugging at your sleeves, your hair, the diary's loose pages. The dog whimpers, a sound of mourning. The villager steps closer but gently, like approaching a grave. The entity shudders. Pieces of it peel back, dissolving, revealing faint traces of human form buried within the shadow. Faces, hands, scraps of clothing from decades ago. The trapped, the forgotten, the ones who stayed. You whisper, you're all of them. The entity answers, not with sound, but with movement. It bows, not fully, just enough to show acknowledgement. Then it straightens, waiting. The child steps to your side, slipping their small hand into yours. The touch is cold but real. Finish it, they whisper, so we can rest. You look down at the diary in your other hand. The clock embedded inside ticks wildly, hands spinning like a storm. What do I do? You breathe. The child lifts your hand, holding the diary, and presses it to your chest, right over your racing heart. You remember, they say, and then you tell the truth. Behind them, the shadow spreads its form, stretching, rising, bracing itself for whatever your memory will uncover. The villagers all exhale at once, one slow, shuddering breath, like a tide pulling back from the shore. The dog touches your knee with his nose, grounding you. Everything waits. Everyone waits, and inside your skull, behind all the fear and the shaking and the broken pieces, something finally unlocks. A buried door swings open, and the full truth begins to rise. The moment the door inside your memory opens, it doesn't open gently. It bursts. A flood of images rushes through you, fast, jagged, overlapping so violently you clutch your head with both hands. Your knees hit the dirt. The dog circles you, whining sharply, trying to steady you with his body. The child stays in front of you, small fingers wrapped around your wrist, anchoring you to the present as the past claws its way upward. The villagers murmur in a low, unified breath. The shadow entity tightens, folding inward to brace itself against what's coming. And then, you remember all of it. Flashback, the day everything broke. The sky was orange that morning, just like now. Smoke, sirens, fear thick enough to taste. You were only a child, 8, maybe 9. You'd been playing in the streets with other kids, running between houses, laughing. The dog smaller, then bright-eyed, bounding after you. Then men with uniforms arrived, not soldiers, evacuators. They moved through the village quickly, shouting orders no one understood. Parents screamed your names, windows slammed. One man knelt in front of you, gripping your shoulders so tightly it hurt. He told you one sentence you fought against for months afterward. You're leaving. They're not. You didn't understand. Not until he pulled you toward the bus, and that's when you made your promise. Not to your parents, not to the adults, to him. The boy standing behind you, holding your shirt sleeve with both hands. The child whose face now stands in front of you, eyes wide, terrified, begging you not to go. I'll come back, you told him. Fierce, certain, because children believe their own promises. I'll come back when I'm brave. He sobbed. He nodded. He believed you because he didn't have anything else to believe in. Then the evacuators pulled you apart. The dog was dragged away. You kicked, screamed, reached. The cellar man, young then, grabbed the boy and his little sister, pulling them toward the cellar as chaos erupted around you. You saw the hatch. You saw the cellar door slam shut. You saw someone shove the lock into place. You saw the tally marks start with hope. You saw them end with despair. The bus doors closed. Your last glimpse of the boy, the child holding your sleeve, was his hand against the cellar window, palm flat, silent. Then darkness swallowed him. B-A-C-Co, present. Your breath chokes in your throat. I left you. The words fall from your mouth like broken glass. The child nods, eyes shimmering beneath dust and grief older than they should ever have carried. But you didn't abandon us, the child whispers. They made you forget, all the adults, to protect you. The villagers shift, murmuring louder. You scan the faces, broken, worn, hollowed out by years of waiting. Not monsters, never monsters, just people trapped in the last moment they saw you. The entity moves. It rises, stretching upward in slow, aching arcs of shadow. Inside it, human silhouettes bloom and recede. Faces of villagers, fragments of arms, scraps of clothing. They are not separate beings. They are fused. Their grief became one. Their memories became one. Their longing became one. They became this. The dog whines and presses his head against your side, not out of fear, but mourning. The child squeezes your hand. They weren't supposed to stay down there, you whisper. They could have survived if someone came back for them. The child nods slowly, but no one did. Your body feels hollow, but the man, you choke out. The one in the cellar, did he? A voice rises from the villagers, thin, shaky. We protected him. He protected us. You turn toward them. One villager steps forward, bones fragile, skin thin as parchment. He kept the promise when you could not. He kept us from becoming nothing. You feel tears sting your eyes, hot and disorienting. I didn't know, you whisper. You were a child, the shadow entity says in 1,000 overlapping voices. And children aren't supposed to carry what adults broke. You tremble. The dog rests his muzzle on your knee, grounding you. The child lifts the diary from the ground and places it in your hands. You wrote the first half, the child says softly. He wrote the rest. You flipped the pages. The early handwriting, yours, wobbly and uneven. The rest, older, heavier, belongs to the cellar man. 2 voices, 1 story. The final page is blank. Blank for you. Finish the last page, the child whispers. Tell the truth. Write what really happened so we can leave this place. You look at the villagers, their hollow eyes, their trembling hands, their grief held together by decades of waiting. You look at the shadow, every part of it pulsing like a heart. You look at the child, small, fragile, hopeful despite everything. Your voice shakes. What happens if I write it? The entity answers, we rest. Your voice drops. And if I don't? The shadow stretches, bodies pushing against its surface, faces contorting, hands grasping through darkness. We stay, it says, forever. The dog nudges your hand one more time, encouraging you. The child presses a small pencil into your palm. You kneel in the dirt. The villagers gather in a circle. The child sits beside you. The dog curls against your hip. The shadow hovers above like a dark, grieving sky. You set the pencil to the page. Your hand shakes. The first word cuts through the silence like a bell. I remember. The entity shudders. The villagers exhale in unison. The child squeezes your arm. You keep writing. Everything you saw, everything you felt, everything you forgot, everything they waited for. The truth pours from you like blood from an old wound finally opened. The shadow entity begins to unravel. Threads of darkness peeling away, revealing faces underneath, softening, dissolving into light. The page fills, the story ends. You close the diary, and when you look up, the villagers are gone, all but the child, and the shadow is collapsing, slowly, gently, peacefully. Its last whisper is not your name, it's just one word, home. Then it dissolves into dust. The child looks at you, eyes brimming with relief and love and impossible memory. We can go now, they whisper. Your throat knots. Before you can answer, a soft voice behind you says, thank you. You turn. The cellar man stands at the edge of the street, bloodied, exhausted, but alive. He smiles, tears streaking through dust on his cheeks. You did it! Your breath catches, this time not from fear. And as the sun sets fully behind the decade-frozen village, the child steps into your arms, the dog leans into you, and the man comes closer. And for the first time in decades, everything is finally quiet. Silence sits over the village like fresh snow. Not the dead silence from before, not the eerie stillness of a place frozen in time. A different silence, soft, relieved, almost warm, as if the air itself has unclenched. You stand in the middle of the empty street, the diary pressed to your chest, the last fading wisps of the shadow entity drifting upward like smoke dissolving into the dying light. The dog nudges your hand. You look down. He's still trembling, not with fear this time, but with exhaustion, every muscle slackening now that the danger has passed. You kneel beside him, fingers combing through his rough fur, feeling the warmth beneath the dust. You're okay, you whisper, not really to him, but to convince yourself. The child leans against your shoulder, tiny fingers gripping your sleeve tightly, as if afraid you might slip away again. You wrap an arm around the child instinctively. They relax into you, head tucked under your chin, their breathing slow and uneven, the kind that only happens after a lifetime of fear finally ends. A soft scrape sounds behind you. The man, fragile, bloody, dust-coated, approaches from the edge of the square. He limps slightly, one arm wrapped around his ribs. But he's alive, truly alive. His voice cracks as he speaks, but his eyes are gentle. "They've passed on," he says, "all of them. They were waiting for that truth, waiting for you." Your throat tightens. "I should have come sooner." He shakes his head firmly. "You came when you remembered," he says. "When you could face it. No one can return before they're ready. You swallow hard." The child pulls away just enough to look at your face. Their eyes, once clouded with years of static grief, now gleam with something new. "Freedom. You kept your promise," the child whispers. Your eyes burn. You pull them closer, hugging them with both arms, feeling their small heartbeat against your chest. They cling to you like they're afraid you might disappear if they blink. The dog presses into your side, placing his head in your lap as if joining the embrace. The man sits a few feet away, leaning against an old telephone pole, wincing slightly but smiling. For the first time, you all breathe the same air without fear. The village begins to change. A breeze sweeps through the street. It lifts dust from the ground, carrying it in gentle spirals around your feet. The posters from the 1970s tremble, peel from the walls, and float down like leaves falling in slow motion. Paint flakes from old doors. Laundry lines sway. Power lines hum faintly, as if reawakening. The sunlight shifts, no longer orange and heavy, but lighter, golden, as if someone finally pulled back a curtain over this entire place. The man watches it happen with awe. "It's unraveling," he murmurs. "The hold this place had on itself, on all of us." You turn slowly, taking in every house, every cracked window, every rusted fence. They look softer, less haunted, less burdened. "It's over," you whisper. The child nods. The dog presses closer. A moment of stillness. You sit together on the curb, you, the child, the dog leaning against your leg, and the man resting beside you. No one speaks for a long time. The air is cool but not biting. The sky deepens into twilight. For a brief moment, you feel like the village is exhaling after holding its breath for 40 years. You open the diary on your lap. The pages flutter in the breeze. Your writing finally whole. Your truth finally recorded. Their story finally told. The clock embedded in the diary has stopped ticking. Its hands rest at a still time. The exact time the village was abandoned. The child touches the clock with gentle fingers. "It can sleep now," they whisper. "You close the diary." And for the first time since you stepped into this forgotten place, you feel something soft unfurl inside your chest. Relief, grief, peace, all tangled together. "The child's question!" As the stars begin to emerge, the child looks up at you. Their voice is small. "What happens to us now?" You look at the man. He meets your eyes. He knows you're the one who must answer. You brush your hand through the child's hair. "Now," you say softly, "we go somewhere safe, somewhere real, somewhere we don't have to hide." The child blinks slowly, absorbing the words like there's sunlight on their skin. "And the village?" they ask. You glance back. The buildings shimmer faintly. The edges blur, not dissolving into nothing, just letting go. "It'll rest," you whisper, "just like they did." The child leans against you again, this time without fear. The dog lies at your feet, his breathing steady and warm. The man watches you all with tired eyes, but there's hope in them, something he hasn't allowed himself in decades. "We should leave before morning," he says softly. "Why?" you ask. He nods toward the air above the rooftops. "Because when the sun rises, this place won't be here anymore." You don't question him. Some truths don't need explanation. Preparing to leave, you stand. Your legs shake. The child grabs your hand. The dog pushes himself upright with a groan. The man uses a broken railing for leverage. Together, you walk toward the edge of the village, toward the overgrown road leading out, the same road you once used to escape as a frightened child. But now, you aren't leaving anyone behind. Not this time. As you reach the boundary, the invisible line where the real world meets the place, frozen in memory, you stop and look back one final time. The village glows faintly in the night, as if lit from within by the souls finally freed from it. You whisper, "Goodbye!" A soft breeze carries the word away. You turn toward the darkness of the road. The child squeezes your hand. The dog bumps your knee. The man gives you a nod of quiet solidarity. You take a step forward for the first time in decades. The village does not pull you back. It lets you go. You walk until the road forgets the village. At first, every step still feels tied to it. The cracked pavement, the telephone poles, the faded road markers that once pointed to a place nobody visited anymore. But gradually, the world changes. Weeds thin, trees grow fuller. The air loses that stale, sealed taste and starts to smell like wet earth and distant smoke from real chimneys, from houses where people still wake, still boil tea, still argue over small, living things. The dog pads ahead a few steps, then drops back to your side, then darts toward the child and nudges their hand, herding all of you together out of habit. The child laughs once, soft and unsure, like they're trying on the sound again after years of silence. It fits them. You don't say much. You don't need to. The diary hangs heavy in your grip, not as a weight, but as an anchor. Inside it is everything that happened, everything you did, everything you failed to do, and everything you finally faced. You glance at the man. He walks slightly behind you, favoring one side, one hand braced against his ribs. His steps are slow but steady. Each one seems to take more effort than he lets on. "You should rest," you say quietly. "So should you," he answers, a tired half smile tugging at his mouth. "But I don't see you stopping." You huff out something that's not quite a laugh, not quite a sob. The child falls into step between you, slipping one hand into yours and one into his. They walk that way for a while, tethered to you both, bridging everything that was broken and everything still fragile. The dog weaves around all three of you, tail swinging in slow, content arcs. Above the black line of trees at the far horizon, the sky begins to pale. "You were right," you murmur. The man glances at you. "About what?" "About morning." You look back over your shoulder. There is no village. The road behind you bends, then disappears into thin air. Not literally, not like a magic trick, but in the quiet, ordinary way memory changes when it no longer has power over you. The empty street, the posters, the hatch, they're still in your mind, still sharp, still precise, but they no longer pull at you. They're fixed now, inked into the diary, set down where they belong. The child stares into the distance, as if trying to see through time itself. "Does it hurt?" they ask suddenly. You blink. "What?" Remembering. You think about it. About the hollow ache in your chest when you first saw them on the porch. About the way your knees almost gave out when the villagers screamed your name. About writing, I remember, and feeling everything inside you split open. "Yes," you say. "It does." The child looks down at the road, bare feet scuffing dirt. "But forgetting hurt more," you add. They look up, their eyes search your face, and then, slowly, they nod. "I was angry," the child says, "for a long time. I know. I thought you didn't want to come back." You swallow around the thick knot in your chest. "I wanted to. I just didn't know how or why, or even that I'd left anything behind." They consider that. "Do you still want to leave?" they ask. "Now that you know?" You stop walking. The others slow beside you. The dog sits, tongue lolling, chest rising and falling steadily. The man leans against a tree, catching his breath, watching you carefully. You look at the child, no shadow behind them now, no entity coiled above, just a small person who waited far too long for something they never should have had to wait for. "I came back," you say quietly, "and I'm not leaving you again." The words are simple. They feel heavier than any promise you made as a child. This time, they're not born from impulse. They're born from knowing exactly what breaking them would mean. The child's jaw trembles. Their eyes brim with something bright and painful and beautiful. "Okay," they whisper. They step forward and bury their face against your chest. Your arms rise automatically, wrapping around them. You hold them properly this time, tightly, long enough that some part of you, a part that still sees them framed in a cellar window, finally believes they're here, and not behind glass, and not underground. The man looks away, blinking quickly, pretending to examine the road. The dog presses his side against your leg, adding his weight to the embrace like he's stitching all three of you together. The horizon brightens, blue seeping into black, gold edging into blue. Morning is coming. You walk again with a new kind of tiredness, not the kind that comes from running from something, but from walking towards something without yet knowing what it looks like. "Where will we go?" the child asks after a while. You peer down the road. It bends loosely through the trees toward a valley where, faintly, you can hear the rush of cars, the hum of distant life. "Someplace noisy," you say, "with schools, and dogs, and neighbors who complain about small things." The child frowns. "Why noisy?" "So you know you're not alone," you answer. So silence never feels like a cellar again. They think about this, then nod. "I want a bed," the child adds quietly. "Not a cot. You'll have one." "And windows that open?" "That too. And a lock that doesn't trap anyone." You smile, a fragile thing that still manages to hold. "No locks like that ever again." The man chuckles softly. "You're going to spoil them?" he says. "That's the idea," you reply. He shakes his head, but there's warmth in his eyes. "What about you?" you ask him. "You could stay with us, wherever we end up." He looks down at his hands, scarred, dusty, every vein pronounced. Hands that carved tally marks, hands that held children in the dark, hands that tried to keep a promise you couldn't. For a while, he says slowly. Long enough to remember how to live somewhere else. And after that, he looks up at the growing morning sky. After that, I'll see. Maybe there are other places like that village, other promises that got buried. The idea unsettles and comforts you at the same time. If there are, you say, you shouldn't have to face them alone. He smiles faintly. One place at a time. The dog barks once as if weighing in. You reach down and scratch his neck. His eyes close briefly in simple bliss. You're coming too, you tell him. You know that. He leans into your touch. You don't know where he appeared from in your adult life. You don't know how many times he tried to lead you back before you finally understood. But you know this. He's been guiding you much longer than your memory admits, and he's not going anywhere now. The road emerges from the trees and spills into a wider one, a paved stretch humming with occasional cars. A rusted sign leans at an angle by the shoulder, village name almost erased by weather and indifference. You stand there for a moment, watching a distant truck roll by. The child grips your hand tighter, not from fear, but because all of this, the sound of engines, the smell of fuel, the sight of other humans, is unfamiliar. The man shields his eyes, squinting toward the horizon. We'll catch a ride, he says. Tell someone we got lost. You give him a look, he shrugs. It's not a lie, really. You huff air through your nose, close enough to laughter. The dog sits at the edge of the road, tail flicking, head lifted, as if already searching for the next path. A small bus appears in the distance. As it draws closer, your chest tightens, not with the old panic, but with a strange echoing recognition. Last time you were put on a bus, you were pulled away from everything. This time, if you step onto one, you'll be bringing someone with you. Several someones. You raise your arm, the bus slows, headlights dim, brakes hiss. It pulls over to the shoulder with a gentle lurch. The door folds open with a sound from your childhood, a sound that used to mean leaving, a sound that now might mean something else. The driver looks at you, at your age, at the child, at the man, at the dog, and frowns in bewilderment. You all right? They ask. You look like you've been walking all night. You trade a glance with the man. We've been walking a lot longer than that, you say. The driver shakes their head in that casual, human way that says, this story is too big for the time I have, then gestures. Get in. I can take you as far as the next town. You guide the child up the steps. They hesitate halfway, glancing back at the empty road, as if expecting the village to reappear in the distance. It doesn't. You offer your hand. They take it and climb the rest of the way. The man follows, moving carefully. The driver eyes the dog. He yours? They ask. You look down at the gray muzzled creature who led you into the heart of everything you didn't want to remember. Yes, you say. He's family, the driver sighs. Keep him off the seats. You nod. You sit midway down the bus, the child by the window, you beside them, the man across the aisle, the dog curled at your feet. The engine hums beneath you, familiar and strange. As the bus pulls away, you look out through the smudged glass. Trees blur past. Signs appear and vanish. The road behind you stretches, then folds into distance. You don't see the village disappear. You don't need to. You saw it already. In the way the shadow collapsed, in the way the villagers exhaled, in the way the clock stopped. Instead, you watch the road ahead. The child leans their head against your arm, eyes drooping. Their body finally surrenders to the weight of rest. The dog's warm flank presses against your boot. The man closes his eyes, lips moving silently, perhaps in a prayer, perhaps in a goodbye. You rest the diary on your lap and run your hand over its worn cover. You could throw it away. You won't. Some stories don't need to be reread, but they do need to exist. As the sky brightens into full morning, you feel a strange, fragile calm settle over you. You're not supposed to remember that village. Everyone who loved you tried to erase it, to spare you. But now you do remember, and because you remember, they are free. Because you came back, you are no longer running from the dark. Because you kept your promise, at last, you get to leave with more than you arrived with, a child asleep against your side. A dog whose path is finally finished. A man who spent years holding a light under the earth. And a story written in your own hand that says, you were scared, you left, you forgot, you returned anyway. The bus rolls on. Sunlight spills through the windows, catching dust motes and warm beams. The light slides across your face, across the child's tangled hair, across the dog's closed eyes. You let your own eyes fall shut for a moment. You breathe in. The air tastes like a beginning. And for the first time, when you think of the cellar door, the tally marks, the villagers on the stairs, the boy at the window, you do not flinch. You simply remember and move forward.